Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Blue Frontier. James here, joined by Ryan and Shan. After Everton 4, Leicester City 0. It's 3 wins on the bounce. Toffees go 9 points clear of the drop zone. After comfortably, I'd say, the best 90-minute performance of the season and the first 3-match win streak for Everton since April of last year. Somehow it feels like so much longer than that. But we're going to get into all of the goals, all of the action, all of the excitement because, wow, just what a fun day to be an Everton fan today. And today, coincidentally, marks exactly 1 month of this podcast, The Blue Frontier. We started on the 1st of the year, and it's now February 1st, and just wanted to give a sincere thanks to everyone for the support with getting the new show sort of up and running. Please continue to help spread the word by following us on socials, sharing our episodes, engaging with us, commenting on our stuff. We appreciate it. We love to go back and forth with the listeners. We have, obviously, listener comments are a huge part of the show, and we love to spotlight people who make really insightful comments and really just helps make this whole thing a really fun show to do. So just a reminder to do that and leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. We really appreciate that. We've come out the gates hot with almost 200 total ratings across both Apple and Spotify. So keep that ball rolling. We're just getting started. We have a lot more content ideas and things that we want to get going. We don't even have a theme song yet, guys. That's also in the works. So with that, we'll go to the summary quote of the day. Sean's turn to choose, and I think he picked a really appropriate one.
Thanks, James, and want to echo the support. Really appreciate everybody's true just infatuation with everything Everton and just really taking just a real ride with the Blue Frontier. So truly appreciated. And also want to give a special shout out to everybody today within the Discord that joined the voice channel. We had a really, really good time discussing the post-match. So just want to give a shout out to everybody that joined. And yeah, we'll look forward to doing, as James said, more content in that space. So going to the summary quote, we're going to choose Mark, Southeast Michigan Toffee, a longtime member of the Discord. A fun morning, keeping the good vibes going. We're finally taking advantage of some breaks in the schedule with poor sides and others in poor form. Basically everything we wanted from August, September, but Dyche kept from us. The shift from Dyche-ball to Moyes ball is becoming more evident, although similar. Under Moyes, we're actually looking semi-competent on the ball, not running away scared from it. Just gives us more hope for things to come and the feeling that there won't be many matches that we are truly incapable of stealing. And I think that's a perfect summary by Mark. We definitely are obviously performing very well, but I think also too, the schedule has been friendly in terms of timing of opponents. So just to quickly talk about score predictions, unfortunately, this week, no one chose 4-0, a few 3-0s, and my 11-10 didn't pan out. But yeah, keep putting those score predictions in. We'll do something fun, of course, at the end of the season for the winner, but it's still anybody's race. So yeah, continue to put those in. But going into lineups, I'm going to transition to James to talk about Everton.
Yeah, so no major changes for Moyes, kind of keeping things the same other than the 2 changes forced by injury, of course. So that means that Beto gets the nod up top, and then James Garner comes in for just a second start of the season for, of course, Mangala, who season appears to be over by all accounts. So keeping it the same, still Jake O'Brien at right back, same center back pairing, two changes forced by injury, but otherwise wasn't expecting anything dramatically different from Everton, and we didn't get it. So happy to see Garner back. I think obviously he had a really good performance today, which I'm excited to talk about in detail as we move into the timeline. But kind of interesting what that partnership would look like. Mangala had been so solid for us. Garner just coming back. Was he going to look rusty, et cetera, et cetera? And then what would Beto do? And obviously we got really positive answers to both those questions, but just kind of interesting when the lineup dropped how things would pan out. And then this Leicester side, we know that they've been struggling as of late. They, of course, beat Spurs sort of to buck their losing streak, much like we did. And yet, how would they continue to build on that? Would they continue to try to build on that? And Ruud van Nistelrooy not having the kindest time at the head of the Foxes.
Yeah, so going into Leicester's lineup, they decided to keep things the way that they basically beat Spurs. Basically kind of a 4-2-3-1, really unexciting wingers in regards to Doucoure, Reed, and of course, public enemy number 1, Jordan Ayew. For me, it was very shocking that Steffi Mavididi is just not starting. I understand you want to keep things the same, but he is by far their most talented player. Abdel Fattawu has been out for a while, but he is a massive miss for them as well. Other injuries of note, Wilfred Ndiaye is somebody that I think probably starts over either Soumare or Winks, and then Ricardo Pereira, perpetual injury I mean, he's really good when he's healthy, but he just never is. Going into kind of, looking at players to watch, Bilal El-Khanous, what a player he is. Great signing from them, from Genk for about 21 million. Of course, with Leicester, they make a great signing and they make 10 really bad ones. And then Oliver Skip, who wasn't even featured on the bench, they paid 25 million, or on the field, 25 million for. So it's just kind of once again, Leicester being Leicester. For us, looking at that back line, it's absolutely abysmal. They couldn't catch a cold in the winter. I mean, that's how bad they are. Looking at Jamie Vardy, though, he was somebody, of course, coming into the game that could probably catch us if we weren't careful on our back line. And then kind of really for us, the other key change for them is Hermansen coming back in for Jacob Stolarczyk, who did a pretty good job, all things considered. So that was a good win for them.
Yeah, I think one thing that's worth noting is that when we talk about net spend, and we've talked about Everton having such a low one, it's like a negative 100 million. I mean, only one other team hasn't spent more than they've taken in, and that was Leicester. Now, it's still 50 million difference the last 3 years, but this just goes to show you when you use that money to buy what they did. I mean, Oliver Skip, 24 million pounds, isn't playing. Fatawu's hurt. I know he's your boy, Sean. Why is Akoli not playing?
Especially over Wout Faes. He has not had a great season whatsoever. I mean, they're limited in terms of some of their options, but to your point, Ryan, I think Ruud has seen this team enough. I'm glad we didn't mention Connor Cody, but yeah, another great usage of money. But yeah, going into key matchups, James, I know you had a good one.
Well, I think Hermansen coming back for them was interesting. He's been out for the last 6 weeks with a groin injury, and I was just looking at some numbers before the match, and I noticed somehow he has the highest post-shot XG plus-minus of any keeper in the league, which is, of course, basically just a measure of goals prevented, and his is plus 5.6. So he's basically prevented 5.5 goals that they've been expected to score. So him coming back, I think, was a big change for them and a positive change. And I was interested to see, obviously, how much we would create against their back line. I wasn't intimidated really very much by anyone in their lineup. This is not a very good lineup at all. So I figured we'd be able to create chances. I was wondering if we'd be subject to just a goalkeeper standing on his head like we've seen many times in recent past. And that was definitely a possibility today, of course, to not pan out at all.
Yeah, and then for me, what I looked at was the midfield war. Obviously, Harry Winks and Boubacar Samare, they're fine players. They're tidy with the ball, but they are not aggressive whatsoever. And for me, looking at Garna and Ghana just kind of playing as that two, would they be able to progress the ball, put them under pressure? Because that, to me, is where you can kind of put them on their heels and just try to make sure that they have to have more of a defensive responsibility. Of course, Iliman Ndiaye, right, driving the ball. So for me, it was a key look into seeing if we could put pressure not only in their midfield but their back line. Would we kind of see them start to crumble a little bit within the midfield, and for us to kind of really run the game the way we wanted to?
Yeah, it's hard for me to look at their transfer business, too, when I think of matchups and think about center backs. And when you see those two starting, you're like, ugh, not the greatest combo. Certainly not a very athletic combo. So for me, a big matchup would have been if we could maybe get one early. How are they going to play? Are they really going to come out of their shell? Because if they start pushing higher up the pitch, that hurts them in two ways. Number one, there's not enough space for Jamie Vardy to run behind. And that's him. I mean, he's a poacher. And I'd say Daka's the same way. I mean, they're almost the same player in many ways. That's another guy they paid 30 million pounds for. I mean, I get why. I mean, he definitely is a carbon copy of Jamie Vardy, running behind, lots of pace. But so if you start to pull them back out, I mean, neither of those center backs can deal with space at all. So to me, and look, I think selfishly, Beto finally getting a start, a legitimate start, a legitimate chance. There was a lot of pressure on him, but also an opportunity to say, hey, if he comes out and plays a good match, maybe we don't have to do as much going forward. But I think we also need to remember just how big a match this truly is. I mean, this seemed like the seminal match in many ways for Everton for the season.
Yeah, no question. I mean, 2 wins in a row against teams that are kind of riddled with injuries and struggling, and then you go up against a team right around you in the table in a chance to go well clear of the drop and really set the stage for the remainder of the season. Huge game.
You go 9 up, basically. Your goal differential's much better anyway. You're in essence 10 up with, less than half the season to play. You're in pretty good shape, I think, especially knowing it's right before the deadline. Like I think unbelievable these last 3 matches, what a difference they've made in terms of attitude and the way they've had to approach this deadline and how to deal with the 2 tough injuries to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Mangala. But regardless, going into this one, you're just thinking, man, let's just have a good performance, right? Let's let's maybe start out really well. You know, you wanted a decent start, but I don't think anyone on the earth could have possibly thought that this was going to be the start.
Well, I was going to say, first 30 minutes, not really anything happened, so we can just kind of skip past that. Oh, wait, 10 seconds in off the opening kickoff. It's Doucoure from Pickford with the assist. Great assist, by the way. Really quality stat and appropriate in the situation. How pretty much every Premier League game starts, you play the ball back and you launch it forward. And Beto does a really good job kind of clearing the space. Leicester, I don't know how you don't get someone on the end of this when it's coming out of the air, but the ball drops because of the space Beto clears out. Doucoure is running in full tilt, has a really good first touch given how fast he's actually moving to set himself up for what is then a really good finish, and it's the fourth fastest goal in Premier League history, and I believe Everton's fastest, both at Goodison Park and otherwise in the Premier League.
What is Vestergaard doing here?
Crazy.
You're 6'7", man. Get your head on the ball, but credit to Corey, just goes to show you, I mean, I thought he played really well today. We know his touch is a little inconsistent. He can be a little clumsy on the ball, playing too fast. But when the ball sets up nicely for him, as we saw with his goal last year that kind of saved our tail, he can strike a ball, or 2 years ago, he can strike a ball well if it's set for him. I think he finishes very cleanly here.
I mean, this is what Dyche wanted all along, right? That just route one football. It finally worked. It just didn't work for the right manager. But agree in some capacity, Ryan. I think it was just perfect timing by Beto to completely box out. And when you have somebody like it's very clever. I mean, of course we get forward. It's he's contributing with volleyball hands as well as just boxing out, right? So if that's how he wants to get his goal contributions, fine by me. But Doucoure coming in at pace, right? Like any center back having to deal with that, just somebody coming in with kind of full velocity. He had like a 5-second head start. It felt like, and that credit to that's a good shot against a good goalkeeper. So very, very good sign early, especially for, to your point, massive game, right? So we really needed to kind of just, set the tempo early.
Yeah, and you almost expect in a game like this, or even just how most Premier League games start, a little bit cagey, a little bit kind of teams trying to feel each other out, and Everton just come in like a rocket ship and score one within 10 seconds. And I guess the question was, like, would we let off the gas at all? Would we try to hold out for 89 minutes and 50 seconds for a 1-0 win? And the answer, of course, was an emphatic no, as just 5 minutes later, we get our second through Beto. I mean, I think he deserves all the credit in the world for how well he times this run in the first place to get in behind. It's a great ball from Tarkowski, absorbing pressure, and I thought he was offside when I watched it live, but it's also not like he's cleanly in behind. He actually has some competition as he's going to take a shot, and he finishes pretty clinically there.
Pace and power, man. I mean, that's the one thing about Beto. He's not going to start and stop all that well, but if he times his run, you can see he's got pace, he's got strength, he can fight people off. It's a great finish, honestly. It just, he hits it cleanly. He's very composed on it too. It's what we just haven't seen enough from him. And I think this is partially opened up because we start off with a goal. I mean, they got to push up a little bit. They can't sit back. They can't pack it in. And it was just a bad matchup for them. I mean, Beto was playing really well, but I mean, how could you not feel fantastic for the guy though? Truly. I mean, immediately it went in. I just felt so happy for him, just to get that off his kind of back. And you have to come in as a starter. You can relax a little bit knowing you're going to get a run. It's not like anyone's going to pull him off. So he definitely wasn't complacent today. He still put in an absolute shift. I actually thought he was working so hard in the first 10, 20 minutes that he was going to die later. But yeah, it's just a great moment. We're up 2-0 after 7 minutes, man.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Ryan, like the angle was not on his side at first, right? So he does a good job of kind of that first touch. Faes is on him but then Hermansen, I think, gives him a little bit of, he comes out and he has to, do a lot but it's such a tidy finish. And credit to Tarkowski, right? Bilal Kounoussi was pressuring him. He gets out of it, and then to kind of deliver that through ball, just absolutely excellent.
Tark is really confident on the ball today a couple times too. It was good to see. Like, he was definitely feeling it. I think the whole team feels a little free. Yeah. They feel a little more free to work the ball. That had me a little nervous about James Gardner today coming right in, but boy, that wasn't the case. Awesome announcing moment, I thought, in the 13th minute I took note of about Everton's possible acquisition of Carlos. In this particular instance, Alcatraz? Is his last name Alcatraz? Does he share the same last name of a former jail sitting in the harbor in San Francisco? I don't recall that being his last name, guys.
I wish he was a defender, because that pun, the lockdown defender.
You could do so much with that, really.
Hitting there, but
I know.
We'll talk about him later. But
he's certainly not Antolin Alcaraz, that's for damn sure.
That's correct.
That's for sure. And I really appreciated later all the he has to score there. We got lots of those today. Some classic moments. Yeah, I mean, look, I thought we were going to take the pedal off the gas a little bit. I will say this. There were a couple of moments in here that I didn't like structurally for us. The two guys up top, Doucoure and Beto, were not doing the best job of leaving one of the double sixes open on the backside, and it was forcing one of our two midfielders to come up and be aggressive. So I know we wanted to be aggressive. There was one goal kick where they had played out to a center back and they passed it and bypassed both their midfielders and had a little bit of a chance. But honestly, Leicester looked just shell-shocked. I mean, they just couldn't put passes together. And I feel like their center back pairings a couple times early, both those guys felt the need to ping the ball long a couple times. I think they were rattled, man. I really think they were.
And understandably so. And Ryan, I appreciate so many things about you, but I also just, in the match day thread on Discord, we're up 2-0 and Ryan's like nitpicking about defensive midfielders positions and things like that. Everyone else is like having a party and Ryan's like, nope, we gotta be really careful here. We gotta be really vigilant. We can't let them have the midfield space. It's just very on
brand. The optimism train was a little concerned at one point. This game isn't
I was
over
concerned
yet.
Too. Yeah, DL famously called me the pessimism train today, which, nursing a hangover, I'll take in good jest. So
look, the bottom line is, I remember at one point thinking this Leicester team, if they all played well and stayed healthy, they would be a threat. And but ultimately you look at these guys and you just think they're toothless. So I mean, truly, maybe Sean, both you and I should have sat back and said, who the heck from this team's going to hurt us? I mean, they did have a couple chances. They had that one that kind of rattled around from the corner and whatnot. Although before that, we did score again, technically.
We did. That Jake O'Brien finish where he was so clearly offside on the back post from the corner. It was a good tap in, but as you say, Ryan,
the lesson we learned there is
you don't send your players to the post.
Right. You take them off the post, you get rid of the flick on. So that did happen. Can we talk about the 28th minute? By the way, I know I'm clearly biased against this player when I see this type of collision happen and I assume it's a dirty play by Ayew. I just assumed it was. I don't think it was, but boy, JB took a serious knot right on his eye.
Yeah. I mean, I was really just praying that he was okay. And of course, after they showed the replay, seemed like, to your point, Ryan, just kind of a bang play. Of course, 2 minutes later, he then elbows Garner, unnecessarily. So it's just like the guy just cannot help himself. That one was dirty, for sure.
No, I understand.
It's just not an extension. Like, you don't need to extend your arm out like that.
Not up high like that. I understand pushing off a little bit on someone's chest or their side or to create space for yourself. But when you flail your hand straight up in the air, you're clear. I mean, it's just, admittedly, as professional as I like to believe that I am, I spent a great deal of the second half hoping someone would come in late and just absolutely wipe him out the longer he was on the pitch. I'm sorry. I think he is a very dirty player. He's not that bad a player. But he's a very dirty player, and I don't know what else to say about it.
Dirty and very hateable. I took great pleasure in watching him struggle today and just Leicester's misery writ large. But it could have been a lot better for Everton, a lot worse for Leicester in the 33rd minute. I don't understand how this isn't a penalty. Beto's running in, and Faes comes in and cleans him out, makes no attempt to play the ball. I guess the argument is the ball's too far away from Beto that he wasn't going to have a chance on goal, but I don't know how it's not a penalty and or a red card for denial of an opportunity.
What do you think it is, guys? I'm sorry, but I look at this play. He's not making a play on the ball, and Beto goes down a little bit easy, obviously, because he's a tank. But the rules don't say that you have to go in hard and battle. I mean, he does not make a play on the ball. What am I missing? I've got to be missing something here. This looks like a clear penalty to me.
I think what just frustrated me more than anything is that we moved on, right? No sense of VAR looking at it, and maybe they did and they just cleared it quickly. But yeah, to your point, Ryan, it's a foul anywhere else on the pitch. Vestergaard's not even really looking at the ball. He just kind of bundles him. He
looks frustrated. I think he's frustrated at this point, and that's why I was he knew what he was doing.
It's just ridiculous. It's anti-big strong guy bias. Beto gets this against him all the He's had so many clear fouls and penalties that he just doesn't get because I don't know if the referee just assumes that he shouldn't be able to fall over that easily because he's so big and strong. But I mean, he could have easily won 4 or 5 penalties for Everton in his career that I think were completely ignored.
Yeah, I agree. I will say this. So one thing, Beto, that you see from him is he's inconsistent. He's going to have one play where he looks phenomenal, another play where he doesn't. His hold-up play is pretty inconsistent. I mean, sometimes he'll kind of lose it for a second. He'll literally punch someone, knock him over just to win it back, and struggle to find its way back to a player. He does a really good job here a couple minutes later, holding up the play, laying it off to Doucoure, who was pretty clean on the ball today. I was a little surprised. When I saw this chance, I thought there was no way this is going to be a big chance. James Garner does not miss this shot by very much. I mean, this is really close, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, we are, kind of almost inches away from a deflection going back into the net, right? Because it hits the post, it hits Hermansen's hand, and then goes out, right? And many times that could easily go right in the back of the net. I think he does so well with such a sharp angle. And credit to Hermansen, that's not an easy kind of, especially coming at velocity. So, for a guy that I know has given up 2 goals, I think he was having a good game, all things considered. But yeah, it was just for us, I really appreciated how we continued to kind of keep our foot on the pedal and just continue to really, threaten them.
Yeah, you could tell we felt comfortable. I mean, some of the ball play was great. Like guys on the ball that haven't been, I'll tell you what, Jared finally today looked crisp on the ball. It's been a while. He's getting better and better under Moyes, but you could tell this play he makes, this through ball for Mykolenko in the 44th, was just wonderful. Phenomenal cross, by the way, by Mykolenko. Has to score here, right? He has to score. The one thing that irritates me about this, so Doucoure tries to open up and play it up in the corner, right? And that's the right play. And again, we know he's not this beautiful attacking player. I just wish people would have watched it and realized, like the fake run to the post, the cut back into space to open yourself up for the target is so smart and so well done. I gotta wonder, maybe he's a little bit tired here because it's the end of the first half, or doesn't have his posture. He's just leaning back a little bit. I wish he got a little more credit for being in the right spot. He doesn't miss this by that much, though, but man, it would have been nice.
I will say that the only thing more consistent than the has to score please is Ambrose coming into the Discord asking for transfer updates every few hours. So hope you're having a good time at Disney. But in all things considered, Ryan, to your point, I think in the moment, it looked like a very easy chance, but I think on that half volley and just the ball bouncing, that's an easy, you touch that just slightly and it's going over the net. So
yeah, the open up of the foot, he at least had the courage to try and guide it to his right, because the easier thing would be to do is hit it, near post,
right,
the other way, but that really wasn't available for him. Yeah, I think the timing is slightly off. He just happened to be finishing his movement away from the player leaning back a little bit, but it doesn't matter, folks, because 3 minutes later, man, what a combination of plays this is from Jimmy Gardner. So a couple things about James Gardner. I'll say this. There's some things that he doesn't do very well. He's not the best at ball controls. First touch is questionable. He's not going to run around with the ball. He lost the ball at one point in the second half that I was like, yeah, that's unfortunately Jimmy's issue. The weight on his passes is somewhat inconsistent at times. Man, that guy's directional passing is unbelievable. He could, if you just gave him this tiny little space, weight didn't matter as much, he will find it. His right foot is an absolute weapon, and giving him a little time on the ball, either to cross the ball or to play a ball. I mean, this ball to Beto is absolutely insane. I love this finish, by the way. Beto's got enough time to make a move. It almost looks like he's going to go with his left, and he opens up his right and hooks it around on the far post. Absolutely clever. You think, well, it's a breakaway. He should have done better. But this is an example of the one thing that Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't do very well. He's not great on breakaways. He just doesn't elevate the ball all that well. He gets them because he's athletic and whatnot. But this is kind of those moments where in a team that wasn't creating a lot, you need to score these in order to generate it. But it's also a lot easier when you're center forward and you're getting consistent chances to get into the game. But man, this was, what an amazing sequence. And it's like you're looking around saying, this is the half we played? This is fantastic.
I mean, between the through ball from Branthwaite to Mykolenko and then this one from Gardner to just absolutely slice Leicester's defense open, my jaw was on the floor for both of them. I just, something we have not seen this Everton team capable of at all. And the Beto finish, again, as you said, one-on-one. Yes, any well-conditioned fan base would expect their strikers to score that goal, but we have seen those opportunities blown in the recent past, so a little residual trauma there, but Beto makes it look really easy, and that is something so different, so refreshing from this Everton team.
I think one thing also, too, that was really nice is that pass from Ghana to Garner to start it. It just, the way he rolled that off his foot, and it was just, I mean, you had Tark to Ghana. I mean, for us, in a half where we just looked so confident on the ball. It was just a perfect ending. And I want to thank the Premier League for once again giving us extra stoppage time to score in the first half. So that's my public shout out to the Premier League.
Well, the funny part is some of the extra time was due to Leicester taking forever off free kicks.
Oh my God.
What's going on?
What are they doing? Like, insane.
And how about the changing of the shoe at one point? What was I was like, are they going to get a yellow card down 2-0 like for time wasting? I was laughing out loud at one point. I'm like, this is the strangest game of all time. I had this little comment that, we scored 3 in the first half, and I could argue that you could have had a penalty, and at Stylo out there reminded offside goal and hit the post as well. So there was a variety of chances, but we also took chances pretty well. Doucoure's chance, the same thing. And you get to halftime and you look at it. I mean, it's utter domination. It's interesting. Expect the XG on this is 1.18, but 7 shots, 4 shots on target, 4 big chances, and they did nothing. They had 2 shots, virtually nothing. They had more accurate passes. 3 corners to 2. The post shot XG on this thing was pretty impressive too. I feel like it was about 2. I don't know if that's been revised since, but 6 shots inside the box, 15 touches inside the box to their 7. Guys, I haven't enjoyed a half of football from Everton football like I did that in a long, long time.
And that's with us scoring 3 just the other week in the first half against Spurs. We did it again, but this felt somehow just a lot more dominant. And the quality shown on the ball, I think, was just leagues ahead of what we've seen even in recent matches. These guys look comfortable under pressure. They had options when they were under pressure to find guys, and just looking, as I think Jake O'Brien said in some of his pre-match comments, freedom to express themselves. And I think they've been given that, and they've taken it with both hands.
And I think the setup here from Leicester helps. The center backs couldn't be aggressive. Samare fouls a lot, but he is one of the softest, big, athletic mids you've ever seen. How that guy is not better. He is so gifted. His feet are so good. Long, fast. Winks is really nowhere to be found half the time. What was very interesting is how late Leicester came out from the locker room. Do you suppose that's because Ruud had some things to say to him? Because it didn't seem to matter.
I think they were just trying to, get a few more shoes tied, Ryan. They love to waste time today, right? So maybe they were watching some musicals in the locker room. Who knows, So
there it is. There it is.
You guys,
there's a little context to this one. I expressed my general disdain for musical theater before we started recording. So without getting into too much of the details on that, the theater that really mattered today was at Goodison Park. And, I was hoping at this point in the second half when it looked like Leicester was pretty lifeless and they didn't really make subs early, so I didn't think too much was going to change. All I wanted to do was see Beto get his hat trick. It really kind of came down to that. In the 53rd minute, this is another really big opportunity, but Beto is getting all selfless on us. What's going on?
I know. What's the deal with this? He gets in behind yet again. This time it's Lindstrom who puts the ball in for him. And he has an angle to potentially take the shot, but he also has Ndiaye running alongside him. And he looks to make the unselfish play, lay it off to him. Unfortunately, that pass is then blocked. But he does well to just body Yannick in this.
Loved
just
it.
So big and strong, crazy. And ultimately, I think it's the right decision to try to lay it off. But I maybe would have preferred him, obviously, in hindsight, to be a little selfish there. Go for the Hattie, Beto. Come on.
The one thing I love is when he gets just a shoulder in front of a guy, just gets a little edge on him, they're done. They're done. They can't get to the ball. He's too strong. At least these guys aren't able to get to it. It was impressive, and he was feeling it too. You could tell it. But this was the right decision. If it gets through there, it's a layup. Ndiaye thankfully got his layup later. But yeah, the combination play was still pretty good. We were still pretty dangerous. I don't know what if you're Van Nistelrooy at this point, you got to be a little bit beside himself. But I can't believe he didn't make any changes really at half or make any changes earlier in this. Don't you think that was a little odd? He's got guys on the bench that could be a little bit, give you something a little different.
Yeah, I think to your point, Ryan, somebody like Oliver Skip maybe to come in to at least try to change the pace of the midfield. He, of course, center back pairing at that point, I think was just down and dusted. But I think one thing that I wanted to quickly say is I really loved how Beto was looking for Ndiaye. Of course, looking at the last game, right, where he had that chance that probably could have had him, spring right in. that was a common theme I felt of today, of both of them. Ndiaye, of course, a little bit more advanced up the pitch, but even, kind of small thing. But when Beto had his first finish, Ndiaye was kind of open, but he just immediately celebrated, right? And so it kind of goes to really the positive culture right now. It's, is through the team right now. It's infectious.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, Lindstrom himself was just busting his tail the whole time defensively as well. It was really nice to see. Everyone was. There was kind of that combo play which gets Beto into the box with tough angle shot, easy save, but that was a nice combo through Doucoure again, who really stepped up his game today. And finally, they make a sub in the 60th. I love the center back for center back sub. Like, is there any more of an indictment of how you're playing than that? But they really didn't change that much. I mean, you give a like for Vardy and Doc and a like for like in a Coley. I mean, I guess it's their way of saying, all right, well, we can play a little higher with this guy because he's a little more athletic. Well, why the heck did you not start with him? Like, it's not like Yannick was soaring over everyone and winning headers all over the place. I feel a little bit bad for Leicester in the fact that the recruitment's been so bad in some levels with the minimals they have. But I mean, how often can you consistently get center backs wrong? And I mean, I would start with the Coley. Why would you not at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're making two like for like subs down 3-0. I mean, that's effectively waving the white flag in some respects. You have no real ideas or interest in getting back into this. You're not going to change anything. You're just sort of resigned to the way that you're getting dominated.
Look at the guys on the bench. Matt Vididi's still sitting on the bench at this point.
I don't know why it was an
Buonanotte, who can actually score, like, you're not going to play him at all?
You get a loan for a guy like Buonanotte, and you don't use him? That's crazy. It's crazy.
But AU's on the pitch, so that's all that really mattered at this point. I just wanted us to kick him several times. Finally, after their lengthy time delay on their free kick in the 72nd, they finally get a shot on target. I know Sean's laughing. I can see him on video. What was this about? This is one of the strangest sequences I've ever seen. Now, I know what was happening. Like, our guys were coming supposedly in front of the line to the side of the line because that's where they were standing. This went on and on for so long only to do that.
This is my favorite part of like just the Premier League. It's like anytime things like this happen, like the natural result is IU just like, or whoever's taking the free kick, just to blast it into the wall and then just go out of bounds.
No way this is going in at this point, right?
Leicester had more attempts to concuss Jared Branthwaite than they did shots on target, because that free kick goes right into his forehead. I was a little worried about it.
But I love how he turned around though, right? Like he literally turned around because he was like, I know it's probably going to hit me, so I don't want to Scott Sterling this, and I want to be okay. It's just hilarious.
How he feels, man. It's like, okay, put the tall guy in the wall and line him up exactly. Okay, is this about where I'm going to hit in the face? Just, am I lined up right? One more to... No, your face is going to make contact 2 inches to the left. Go ahead. You're good. Thanks, Keep. Appreciate that. I'm going to take it off the freaking nose. Yeah, and just after that, it's like, there's no way they're going to possibly score at this point. It's all over for them. Yeah, this is just crazy. Lindstrom finally comes off. He looked gassed, by the way. But the saddest part is he comes off right after having a great chance. I mean, Doucoure chasing a ball down. The guy just... Do we think Doucoure was probably or something wrong with him last week? You know what I mean? Like he was sick or something. Like this is a night and day player from. I mean, he was so bad. I thought last week
this is night and day from really a lot of what we've seen from him this season. Even I think.
Well, it was a great
quality on the ball. He was so much better. Last week was especially bad, but last week was closer to kind of his norm on the season than today was. Just way miles.
I don't know.
Better.
I think you're being a little harsh on the guy for that personally, but I've been defending him a lot. I'll say this: Lindstrom hits this great. It's a pretty good save.
Yeah, on Doucoure, I would probably say also too, Ryan, the personnel that we played last week was a lot more. It caused much more of an issue, and especially that midfield, right? Abaliba and our IR. But
actually, Sean, you make a good point. I think from a spacing standpoint, it might be a little easier having Beto up top. You know, he's not coming back to the ball in between the lines as much. That's not a criticism of Dominic Calvert-Lewin either. At times, I know he was playing against Brighton too. Beto was, but I do think the spacing there is difficult because when he drops in the midfield, it's kind of like, what do we do? Ndiaye could go up kind of behind him. If you had time to structure things correctly, you probably could get that down, but we haven't quite got to that point yet. Although, to Doucoure's credit today, I mean, getting that 10 up closer to the striker so that Beto didn't have to take 20 minutes to find someone was helpful. And you did see that today. And partially that was, I think, to your key matchup, their midfield. I mean, they were just not recovering the ball and jumping on the ball. There was too many chances we had to run onto into it. And I hate to use the stupid cliche, but I think we just wanted it more a little bit today. I think they were a little bit demoralized after the start.
That was, I think that was Leon Osmond's comment on commentary as well. They just want it more. I just want to be clear. I think some of the hatred that Doucoure has been getting this season completely unwarranted. I think he's done, for the most part, a pretty good job. But
he is what he is, James.
He's playing out of position, and though he's done okay for us in that role for a few years now, it's not ideal for him. And I'm just really happy to see him finally have some success in that role today.
Ashley Young coming on, though.
Yeah, Young on for Lindstrom was a little interesting, and then just a few minutes later, James Garner comes off to a standing ovation for Timmy Bunham, which was good to see.
Tim the Wizard or the Enchanter, whatever we want to go with. I was very curious. I thought maybe they might put him up higher and drop Dukes back, but I guess why mess with a good thing? Good to see him back, honestly. I mean, he's a talented kid. I think he's got some serious issues with his play, but I think what's more important is that James Garner came on, played 82 minutes. He did fade a little bit, but man, for about 70 minutes, he was debatably the best player on the pitch. It was the type of game for him. He can play faster. He doesn't have to dwell on it. Ghana did a lot of hard work, too, dropping deeper in a more of a holding role. And it freed up James Garner to receive the ball more often than not facing. He didn't have to turn on the half turn or anything, and he was able to use his right foot. I thought he was fantastic today. I mean, he just played at pace and at speed. And he's an athletic guy. He's long. I mean, when he's able to play aggressive, he could do some great things, and he was instrumental today.
I mean, you could tell the passing sequences that the team was just doing really helped, I think, just get them into a rhythm of play. And yeah, to your point, Ryan, I think it brought out the best of kind of our players. Credit to Moyes as well for just kind of putting the best guys on the pitch, and as well as just putting them in positions to succeed. And you're seeing it right now, just the confidence is oozing from them. Even when they made a mistake, they figured it out. They didn't get their heads down whatsoever. And that's when you're kind of playing with that type of freedom. You're going to see results like this today.
I thought they looked overmatched against our back line. Like when all those guys are playing well, the physicality of it. I mean, they kept trying to play the ball over. Even when Mavididi finally came on and was doing his little jukes move and step overs and whatnot. I mean, he's a pretty good 1v1 player and he got a couple crosses off. But, I mean, they're not going to beat O'Brien. I mean, he's free out there to play right back in many ways, knowing he has cover to just lock guys down, man. And he does it. It was just, I mean, did DeCorvo Reed even play today? I mean, just totally took that side away from them. And it's just run into a wall. Those guys are just absolute beasts back there. And interesting, deserves sub off today. Pato finally comes on, the evil Patterson with the facial hair and whatnot. Mikolenko goes to the bench. Miko played really well today, I thought, up forward in the final third, a couple good crosses. I wouldn't rely on him to do that too often, but he's not completely unskilled. He feels free too, you could tell. Like he's starting to loosen up a little bit, and that might be terrifying in some aspects, but I think it's great. I was also very happy to see Jack Harrison coming on and playing the left side, coming off from Beto. Glad he gave Beto a curtain call too. I mean, that was really a cool thing for Moyes to do. Ndiaye goes up to play like our false nine version, which is kind of fun. He's still pretty good with his back to goal, so I think you can deal with him in there. But, I mean, hats off to both those guys. I thought they were very good today. It's just so cool. Like, Goodison Park was rocking, man. Like, the second half had to be so much fun. And then the cherry on the top.
Yeah, the cherry on the top after 3 first-half goals, waiting the entire second half for something to happen to get the fourth. It's Ndiaye through calamitous defending from Leicester. I mean, my God, they can't clear their lines. Ndiaye pressuring alongside Ghana. I think Ghana's up there with him trying to win it. Ndiaye takes it and does it all himself, wins the ball back. Immediately, he's in the penalty area already. He just has to drive forward a little bit in a cool, calm, collected finish yet again for 4-0. Just a great way to cap off the performance. Very fitting, and glad Ndiaye got another goal.
How mad was Hermanson after this play?
Oh, my God.
How could you not be? He's getting hung out to dry by his back line all day, and then that happens to just end it. Just disgraceful. I mean, whatever Van Nistelrooy said to them at halftime must have worn off by stoppage time.
I will say my favorite thing about watching Leicester this season is anytime Leicester score, Wout Faes always has his hands in the air like it's somebody else's fault. Like, dude, take some accountability. I mean, for God's sakes, it's just like 3 or 4 guys on that play could have easily made it, but Ndiaye either having a magnet on his foot or just actually taking some initiative. But yeah, I feel for Hermanson because, yeah, what a game to come back to, right, from injury.
And that takes us to full time. And as we said at the top and throughout, I mean, just domination from Everton, especially in front of goal. I mean, 2.35 XG, which that might come down a little bit. That's from FOTMob. To Leicester's 0.39. We had 7 shots on target, 13 total. They had 9 shots, just 1 on target, as we talked about. They had, again, more accurate passes. Okay, they had a few more corners, but we also only fouled 7 times to their 13. Most encouraging thing for me today is over 2 XG from open play, which is just amazing. I don't think we've barely gotten over 2. I think we were just over 2 in the Spurs match, and that included some set play XG, well over just from open play, and even a little bit from set pieces today. And the XG, post-shot XG today, also higher than our regular XG. So the finishing is starting to show up. And I think, Beto has a big part to play in that, but Ndiaye's finish at the end also, he made it look easy, and that's a little bit of stat padding, a little bit.
But still, let Wout and Victor have the ball, 155 times between themselves. Great. Awesome, buddy. Great job. 2 for 8 for long balls. Wout, 3 for 8 for Christensen. Great. You guys can pass the ball around on that side all you want. Vestergaard would have been up there too, but he was subbed off. That's so unbelievable. Harry Winks to 63 touches. None of these guys really did anything at all with the ball whatsoever. So kudos to Everton. We locked him down. I think Ruud really needs to kind of shuffle some of his attacking players there. They just don't seem to have much of a threat. And maybe what will happen is the same thing what happened with Brighton. We broke them. They got murdered today. You could tell. Seagulls were not flying. We've tamed foxes today. And I think we may have broken Spurs too, but we'll see what they're going to be like tomorrow. I don't know if they get anyone back, but yeah, the only disappointing part for me, honestly, was in the second half with the last 10 minutes left when there was nothing really else to do other than kick Jordan Ayew, and it didn't happen. They kept him in just for that purpose. He would have been a perfect target. I can't remember who was on the Discord suggested bringing in one of the young guys, kind of like you used to do in the old school NHL where you just kind of bring the goon on at the end and just wreck the other team's guy, their pest, and just go after him, just pound the crap out of the pest. And yeah, you take a suspension, but who cares? You're gone. I was really hoping for that. Maybe that's not the right type of football that we need to see, but just being honest, that's just what I was feeling. I just thought that would have been the cherry on top of the cherry. Lots of good performances today, though. It's hard to pick a man of the match. There were really so many good ones, but a couple did stand out for sure in a very good day for Everton.
Yeah, going into, I think we have to start with James Garner. What a return to action. Of course, it came last week, but started today. 31 for 39 passes, 79%, 1 assist, 3 chances created. Passes into the final third, 7. I think this is the most impressive one. Recoveries, 8, most in the match. So really, really good all-around game from Jimmy.
Yeah, I think another one, of course, didn't talk about him as really part of any of the goals, but Ghana again, off the back of rumored talks beginning for an extension for him. Seems like the most obvious no-brainer of all time to get him for another year. 37 of 40 passes today. That's almost 93%. 6 recoveries. As you talked about earlier, did a lot of the dirty work to free up James Garner to kind of get forward and be more creative with the ball, which I thought was fantastic. And then, of course, you have Beto. I don't know, Ryan, you want to run through the numbers for Beto today? Just outstanding.
2 goals, buddy. That's the one that matters. 35 touches, 6 successful attacking third passes. There was some evidence of hold-up play, 2 ground duels, 1. But, one thing that I think he was part of, I'm not saying it's all him, but you looked at kind of the long passing stats. Pickford was 10 for 14 in long passes. I don't think we've seen that in a long time. Tark was 5 of 7, I believe. JB was 6 of 12. JB was trying to do some more creative stuff. Ghana 3 of 3. Jake 3 of 4. Jesper 3 of 4. It's just, Beto, part of it is he's wrecking havoc, and he was pushing guys back and creating space for the people behind him.
But what's interesting in that, too, in all those long balls, Beto won one aerial and only had, I think, 3 attempts.
Which is great.
Which is exactly right, and that's just sort of the narrative of Moyes using guys effectively and how they're meant to be used. You're looking to play the ball on the ground, play guys in behind. Even if it's a long ball, they're not trying to just go 50-50 and try to win the ball, knock it down to a second man. There's actual cohesion to the movement forward and that sort of direct, on-the-ground, rapid attacking, counterattacking.
Yeah, why play the long ball direct to the striker if you don't have to? A lot of it was playing into the wide areas, letting them run onto things. It was great to watch, really. I just think that it was just, it's nice to see. Look, no one's going to make a claim that Beto is some elite Premier League center forward. I don't think that really matters. But what matters is that there's certain things he does well. If you play into him in the right way, he's going to score some goals. He's going to create some havoc, especially against a team that put out some weak center backs today. And he delivered what was needed. I don't know what the future is of Beto. I could see him moving in the summer. Maybe as we do a rebuild, he's not your guy, but it's really nice that he had that moment today. You saw him at the end of the match too, going to the Glady Street, and they were just going crazy for him. And the one thing you cannot question that guy, man, the passion, the heart, the hard work is there. That guy, Moyes had some nice things to say about him after the match, too, talking about how hard he works in practice. It's very disappointing to me, some of the narrative that I felt like was crafted behind the scenes when Dyche was here, which is ironic, too, because people were criticizing Dyche as being not the greatest coach, yet indicting Thelwell and other people in ways because the players weren't good enough. I mean, does anything about Jacob Ryan look like he's not good enough? Beto looked pretty good today. So, I mean, I know he's not going to be the most aesthetically pleasing guy, but I think he's a guy that everyone roots for, and I think it was great to see him get on the score sheet twice today. Man, the Hattie would have been nice, though.
Yeah, it definitely would have. And just one last, I guess, honorable mention for man of the match, or debatably man of the match, honestly, is Ndiaye. He's pretty much in the conversation every single week. Some of the at least once per match, he has a dribble where I just go, oh my God, how did he do that? It's crazy. 48 touches today. He, of course, had the cherry on top goal, 9 successful attacking third passes, created 2 chances, won 9 ground duels out of 11, so just really good defensively, 6 recoveries, 4 for 4 in dribbles, by the way, and 2 successful tackles. I mean, that's a good day at the office.
What happened to Justin James, by the way?
Very good question.
I get that Pereira's hurt and is a truly borderline elite fullback when he's healthy, but,
Also, it's James Justin, but he's got 2 first
Justin
names.
He's got
James.
2 first names, yeah.
Justin
I'm
James,
sure there
James
is a
Justin.
Justin James, yeah.
Jesse James, the gunslinger, which he was not today. I think the problem is that it just goes to show you that when you're surrounded by players that aren't that great to pick up the slack when you make mistakes, that's kind of what happens. But, yeah, I mean, the Leicester team just seems out of sorts for sure, and I'm glad we were there to take advantage of it. I think the early goals just kind of did him in. They just kind of fell apart. But, man, it was fun to watch today. I mean, you could throw a couple other names in here, too, as well as they played. I thought the back line didn't have to do too much because they were so efficient. I thought JB was outstanding. Pick didn't have much to do, but his distribution was on point. I mean, Doucoure, I thought, played great for him, especially how badly he's been playing on the ball. It was a team effort, man. They were flying today. It was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, so going into comments, just because, of course, with the good vibes come a lot of great comments. We'll start with Blue Sky. So Dunkit 31K at Blue Sky Social. No idea what Leicester was doing with that high line or midfield setup, but a great performance in a side that looks like it has a plan both going forward and build-up play and solidity defensively. Bench needs 3 more viable options, but up to 3 points off 12th Toffees, and we'll get into kind of a discussion on the table later.
In your defense, that's not a word.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Solidity. I think that's what he tried to say. Yeah, just trying to say that quickly was not my best. So,
but the point, I don't know if they were. I don't remember that. I didn't think they started with necessarily a higher line. I think there were opportunities there to go at Everton in many ways, but they just didn't seem capable of doing it.
Not at all. Definitely
and I don't
not.
know if I don't know. Is the manager change really going to make a difference on this team? Maybe
That's what Sean and I were talking about that off air. I think Sean pointed out that it may be fact. I haven't checked this, but I trust Sean that no team that's ever done 2 manager changes in a single season has ever survived relegation.
That's interesting. I mean, I don't know if that really means anything, but because I don't know what the sample number is on that. But I will say this: I also just don't know how much leeway, how much room they have to do any business through the rest of the way.
I don't think they have much room at all. I mean, especially with kind of what's coming out of their camp. Ruud is kind of basically anything he's said in pressers is basically saying we need to get the most out of what we have here. So, yeah.
And they have some injuries here, but guys, I think I don't want to be preemptive and just say they're done, but Pereira's out for a while. Ndidi seems like he's out at least for another couple works. Abdul Fattah was out. We know that. ACL, right?
Yeah.
And, Edouard maybe makes a little bit of difference there. He gives you a little bit of a different type of attacking threat, but I wouldn't necessarily say he's some game breaker.
Well, you know that he wants to stay at Leicester instead of going to Atlanta United for $15 million, right? So,
well, it seems like they got the guy from Middlesbrough for 22 or something, so it doesn't matter. I will say this, though. That kid, I wouldn't make that move if you were in a normal league, but the MLS is not normal. He's got a limited ceiling. That guy's going to score a ton there. But, undersized strikers can do that. Totally being distracted now. Going to the Discord comments. It was fun today, wasn't it?
Fun day in the Discord for sure, absolutely. And Stockhausen says it very well. It was fun being an Everton fan today. Today, let's soak it in, Blues. Totally agree. And then the Bugle, a.k.a. Jackson Bugle.
Jackson was so happy today.
Jackson has been
Happy for
beating the
Jackson.
build back Beto to death for weeks and weeks now, and today it finally bore fruit for him. So Beto is built back. Phenomenal performance from him. So happy to see him back. Garner, Lindstrom, Ndiaye, Ghana, all incredible. But Beto, I have never liked a player more. I don't know if I myself will get that carried away, but I appreciate his enthusiasm for our backup striker. It is great, and he certainly deserves all the accolades today.
Yeah, and then going into, of course, great contributor to Discord and the voice channel today, Matt Clevier rhymes with Chevy. Cannot emphasize how big that was today. Breathing room for the bottom three, another clean sheet, goals from open play, and not Craig Dawson. Yep, great point. Garner, massive. Justice for Beto. We are so back. Let's cruise into Bramley-Moore Dock and a brighter future. Finally.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel too. Finally, right? Kudos to DL for many ways. DL / Darth Moisiah, really? That's what he went with
good.
now?
That's
I
pretty good.
saw it recently. Our favorite and resident Sith Lord. The one thing is, I think people, I'm going to defend DL here a little bit. So he has defended Dominic Calvert-Lewin for a long time, some ways somewhat irrational. And since we have the mic, like he's not been on point for everything recently. Like, I know he's still in denial, but Jean Duran did displace Ollie Watkins as starter. Sean knows it. I know it. And DL, you could deny it all you want, but that is what happened. Regardless, he has not disparaged Beto during his whole pro Dominic Calvert-Lewin rants. And in his defense, playing properly to a striker, if you play to their feet and they have time to seal and really do things, obviously it's a lot easier to score. It's a lot easier to play. And it's also a lot easier to get into a rhythm when you feel like, a chance can come at any moment. And I think that's what you saw today. You saw a guy that grew in confidence, and you saw it a little bit with Dominic Calvert-Lewin too before he got hurt. He scored a great goal, and he was feeling it a lot more. So I think DL's onto something a little bit here. But yeah, take it easy on poor DL. Defending Dominic Calvert-Lewin is not disparaging Beto. Those are different things, and he recognizes that. I think his theory is it'd be nice to have those guys for 90 minutes, right? So you could sub one off. I mean, seeing Beto go crazy for 60 or a hard 30, yeah, they just give you a little bit different feels. And it's very nice. Like, I don't feel as concerned about losing a striker now because you feel like Moyes can play with a little more versatility depending on the personnel he has up there. I would say there's some other positions where Moyes needs a particular type of profile more, one side or the other with his fullbacks. But in this case, even seeing Ndiaye up there didn't make me too nervous. Bluest here, I think, summarizes the match perfectly in a visual.
Yeah, he does, and it's just simply a screenshot of the Premier League table with Everton above Spurs. With the same matches played, 26 points for Everton, just 24 for Spurs. They, of course, will play tomorrow. We'll see how they do, but that Spurs +9 goal differential to our -5, maybe a little scary, but the table overall just looks a lot better. We'll talk about that in a second. We go to also then Alan Brody at Brody and MD. Time to start looking up the table. Garner was superb, and great to see Beto gain some confidence for big games ahead. Leicester was dreadful, and we honestly could have matched Forest with 7 goals with a little more composure. I mean, yeah, that James Garner chance, obviously, it could have gotten really ugly, and it still ended pretty ugly. We then go to PDX Toffee. It's so weird watching a second half anxiety-free. I'm not even sure that was Everton I just watched. A really nice return from Garner. And yeah, look, we got the 3 first half goals against Spurs a few weeks ago, but we ended up making it a little more uncomfortable than it needed to be in the end. Today, it was flying high all the way to the final whistle.
And look, I think we've probably said most of the stuff for XG Everton Fury. Sorry, buddy, we've stolen your thunder mostly already, but amazing how Moyes could figure out how to properly utilize Beto at striker, continues to play Jake O'Brien, and puts Lindstrom and Ndiaye in roles to succeed. It's pretty amazing how little Dyche did get from those 3 guys, all new players in the summer. Kudos to the recruitment team for pulling them out. Jake and Ndiaye, neither of those guys were more than 20 million euros. Would you rather have those guys for under 20 million, or is it Oliver Skip?
Yeah, Oliver Skip for 25.
Interesting. And Jimmy Gardner, welcome back. The pass assist for Beto's second goal was Chef's kiss. Pretty remarkable for Gardner to just step in the side, but play the way he did, as confident and as aggressively and as fluidly he did. All right, look at the table here, folks. God, this is massive, right? We talked about the room now behind us, but knowing that the game in hand has been taken care of against some of these guys, we're 1 point away from West Ham with a goal differential that is 11 points better. That's almost hard to believe, really. Palace is only at 27 points. United, 3 points behind United. just Brighton is not that even far from us, and they're falling like a. Again, I mean, we got to consider the competition we just played, right? I get that, but boy, it's just so just relaxing and relieving.
Well, I mean, Sean Dyche's right? This run looks a lot better if you add a few wins to it. So, I mean, you look at the table, right?
There it is.
9 points, and we're at 26. And to your point, Ryan, I think when you think of the goal difference and what it means in a tie, it's really kind of a 10-point lead when you look at the bottom three. So I think one thing to kind of quickly transition to is looking at the upcoming schedule, right? Because I think this is one thing that we've touched on prior pods of something to look forward to. And the schedule gods have been really kind to us in terms of the teams we've played so far and in form, out of form. But even going forward, of course, play Bournemouth at home for the FA Cup game, but I think that's the start of 3 games in 7 days for us, right? So we have to kind of manage this thin squad that we have at the moment with injuries and whatnot. We can't lose guys like Ghana and Doucoure and whatnot. But then we go into the derby at home, which obviously is just going to be a cauldron for just the last Goodison derby. And then you have Palace away, United, and then we'll kind of get into some of the other things. But what do we think, guys? I mean, this is just kind of a really good situation to be in after today.
Well, you'd like to take care of business before you really get into the tough stuff later in April, right? I mean, that's exactly what you would like to do. The only concern I have is injuries. That's it. It's like the one thing that you think could really derail this team. We've already seen some of it. And you start looking at the side, Garner's back. I mean, I think we saw that if we have to play the way we did today, and I don't think Moyes is ever going to play where we got to take the air out of the ball and build up and, from the back and deal with high pressure, and we're going to dance around it. We're going to play through it or play over it, I think, still. So I'm not too concerned about Jimmy Garner playing midfield in a Moyes team. Irabunum coming back, I mean, he gives you a new body. I don't trust him at all as a player, but maybe for chasing the game, or you just need to spell someone, he can be a little helpful. Moyes indicated that Trimidi might not be that far away. I mean, it's maybe asking a little bit much, but 3 or 4 weeks away, I think that maybe changes whether we need to get a center forward or not. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin getting a second opinion. I just have this feeling Dom's done. Like he's not going to play again for Everton. Am I crazy to think that?
No, I don't think so. There was also the news coming out allegedly that Broja might be able to come back sooner than DCL, which has kind of changed our perspective on whether to try to terminate his loan or not. So that's interesting. Regardless, if Trimidi and one of Broja or DCL is back within, if you have 3 guys back within a month or two, it definitely changes the urgency with which you have to approach the striker position with the remainder of the window for sure.
Can't imagine seeing Beto play 3 times in 7 days, though. Can you even imagine? Like, that just seems
yeah, it's a little
unlikely. I mean, maybe we'll look into loan in it, just another body there. I don't know what you do, but and even then asking Ndiaye to do that a lot, I don't know if that's the right move. Should we have a new discussion around the very strange social media and announcement phenomenons that had happened yesterday? I'm still so confused by this. It comes out of nowhere, but then Flamengo's account just announced that Carlos Alcaraz, not Alcatraz, was joining Everton on loan with a potential buy. I think there's some things that have to happen in order for it to become mandatory. Came out of nowhere. And then you had all these Everton accounts saying, I put the clip of Alan Myers on here. I understand that Everton have an interest in the player at this point, but there's no deal done at this point. And then Patty kind of said the same thing. Like, dude, Flamengo literally officially announced that he's gone. And then Alcaraz's social media people give like this crazy video montage, saying thank you to Flamengo and no announcements at all. Bobble's like, I don't know. He's like, this is the first kind of, it surprised me too. I don't know if this is just amazing job by the Everton crew of being quiet about something, but the like denial that a deal is done, like the departing club has already said he's gone, man. He's looking for flights today. I don't know what to say about that. It was a really strange, I mean, only in modern world now with social media does this type of stuff happen, but this is very bizarre, I think.
I mean, this is the first and last time I believe anything that Moyes says from a presser. Like, it's just, he said that, Tim was weeks away from playing. He plays today. He's talking about, no, I don't know if we're going to get anybody. And then, Alcaraz just kind of comes in. It's just, it was, to your point, Ryan, like he had like the video, I think, like of a statue of Jesus, like Alcaraz, like, just It's just like
it's a Christ
insanity.
Redeemer in Rio, right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, someone had prepared that a little bit. I mean,
right.
I know it's in Rio, and I get it. And it's he hadn't played many in the State Cup competition, but he did play a couple days ago. Scored a goal.
Well, didn't he play the? So the announcement came out yesterday, Friday. He played on Thursday, no? So or maybe Wednesday. And again, the Flamenco statement came from a statement from their sporting director being like, hey, here's kind of the deal why he's leaving. We don't really see a fit for him. We want him to advance his career. But it's almost against the grain in the sense of in social media, things break and guys get leaks and things come out ahead of time. And you almost always have, at least, if not Fabrizio, someone hinting at a rumor. There was no mention of this guy in connection to Everton whatsoever at all until the announcement from the departing club came out. I'd never seen something like this before. I
mean, the good part is I feel like a lot of the rumors that have come out recently, I'm just shaking my head at. I'm like, nah, that doesn't make any sense for this recruitment team. And, my concern was, God, maybe Moyes has a little more influence on this than I think. And I think David Moyes is probably very good evaluating talent. My only issue with him has always been the strategy itself, not paying max value for ready-made players. Turns out, apparently, we made 2 offers to Merlin Rowe at Freiburg, who's an attacking type midfield profile. I don't know if you've seen him play. He looks kind of funny because he's 6'4" and he plays as an attacking mid. He's a pretty interesting player. I mean, I don't think we get over the line with him. I think they would probably want a pretty penny. So I have no doubt that Alcaraz is probably not the very top of our list. And that's what Moyes said. We might end up getting the players that aren't ideal. Some of the information I've gotten from some of my contacts indicate that it's been a very, very difficult window, I think, and not just for Everton. I think a lot of people have been frustrated. There's no Saudi Arabian teams coming in to pay $70 million for our players, for better, for worse. I like the strategy, though, what this represents. You're taking a shot on a guy who's 22, he played at Juventus already. Was in he looked okay.
Bit of a journeyman for 22,
but we thought he looked okay at Southampton, right? I mean, Sean, you saw him play there.
Yeah,
James, you guys saw him.
I thought he was good. Yeah, I thought he was a player that could, get on the ball, kind of force the defense to be on their toes, and he's got a good shot on him. So it's I think it's one of those things where the goodest and faithful, and we're crying, right? We've been crying out for a South American on this team for years, right? And I'm sure he probably signed the dotted line once he was like, wait, who's your manager? It's not Sean Dyche. Okay, all right, I think I can come.
Well, we already made the jokes about Sean Dyche not having managed anyone from the Americas, basically. I like the idea here, really. And so I went back and watched. I had watched him a lot at racing before. I loved him then. I thought for a young guy, he made a break early in that league as a very young player. Buono Noto was another guy who broke in age 17 and half a year, and someone scooped him up. So I wasn't surprised if someone made a run for him then. He didn't look great at Juventus. It just felt like that was maybe a little bit much for him. And honestly, when I watched him at Flamenco, the first watch, I watched one match, he was terrible. He just looked out of sorts, and he was playing a lot with his back to goal, kind of coming in between the lines, and that's fine. He's not the most precise kind of passer, but he gets on the ball, he will turn and run with it. And Sean, you're right, his right foot is deadly. And he's not a long guy necessarily. They list him at 6 foot. I don't think he's quite 6 foot, but he's a box, he's strong, and he'll bounce off of guys, and when he starts running with the ball and moving, he's pretty tricky. He'll lose it some, but he'll also beat some guys clean and whoa. And he's good at free kicks. His right foot is really good, and he can score a little bit. When he gets in the final third, though, even when he was playing poorly with Flamenco, he made stuff happen. He can cross the ball. He can serve it up. The second watch, I watched him play, he much better. But it was kind of sad. They're a really good side, but they like getting on the ball. They like controlling matches. The attacking midfielders they play in front of him are outstanding, too. So, you can't really argue and say, well, he didn't play that much. The Brazilian league is good, man. That is a tough league to play in. The conditions are difficult. The players are physical. I think he's probably in many ways better suited to the Premier League. I think we got to be a little patient with him, but he doesn't have to come in and set the world on fire now, especially where we are in the table. And I think he's probably a legitimate option to play instead of Doucoure in that position at times. And I think the way we play is going to be better. I think he'll be facing forward a lot more. He'll have the chance to pull and grab the ball and carry it a little bit. We need people that can do that. Doucoure can do it a little bit, but not with great precision. He's not going to dance with it. He's more going to run into space and just move. He can play wide too. I mean, I've seen him play on the left side, cutting in on the half space on his right foot. So, but I like the profile, right? To me, this signifies a strategy it sounds like the mandatory buy clause. Sounds like the buy clause is around 20 million euros, maybe a little bit less. That's not outrageous to me for a kid that's only 22.
Yeah, he's moved around a lot. And as you said, I think between Juventus, Southampton, and Flamengo, 3 sides that generally want to get on the ball quite a bit. And maybe a side that tries to be a little bit more direct, albeit under Moyes, maybe on the ground versus just lumping it. That's something that plays to his strengths, because from what I've seen of him, which is a lot less than Ryan, I'll be transparent there, but dude can get on the ball. He's not afraid to drive forward, be aggressive, and in the final third, as you said, he does make things happen. In like Southampton, when he played for them in the championship, I mean, they like led the league in possession and things like that, trying to take the air out of the ball a little bit. I do think something more direct where he can make mistakes in the final third. That's okay.
Yeah,
it's not going to be as punishing because we don't care about necessarily just possession for the sake of it.
And I think a lot of the clubs he's played on have been possession heavy side, have come out and said that it wasn't the right side. I think Flamengo flat out said that. It was like a record buy for us, right? But he just wasn't a great tactical fit, and I totally agree. Maybe they could have tried him more on the left side. I think that would have been better. He did play in the left half space there. But when I say too, he turned 22 at the end of November, like November 30th. This is a young player.
And he's played a lot of different positions, as you sort of alluded to. I mean, he could play in that 10 spot. He can play a little bit more box to box. He can play wide. He's got some different. It's kind of still trying to figure out maybe where his best position is, but versatile, which is something we may need given the thin squad that we currently have.
Yeah, he's a little bit. He's not an incredibly athletic player necessarily, but he runs with the ball. He's almost faster on the ball when he takes off with it, and he's strong on it. So he's not a bad athlete. Do we mention the winning goal in the Argentinian Cup finals against Boca?
Stuff of legend right there.
Where he won, he scored, took off his kit, waved it around, taunted all the fans. To do that in Argentina, you cannot be quite right in the head. Complete brawl broke out. I think there were 10 red cards.
Yeah, they say, from what I've heard from other Southampton fans and whatnot, and seeing, he can also be a little bit of a hothead at times, which maybe we need a little bit of that in this Everton side.
Well, the courage in running with the ball and being willing to kind of go at someone. I didn't see as much of that in Flamengo, but one thing we've seen with Moyes is he seems to inspire a lot of guys on this team, so maybe you can kind of get more of a dare to be great. I will say this, though. If he comes good, I mean, you're looking at a player worth way more than 20 million, and that's why I like this strategy. If you're going to miss some with guys at kind of this age, and I think his potential, too, is still going to have, you're not going to lose that much value on this guy. Other people would be interested in him. And yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens. I think he can maybe help a little bit this year, but I like him in the future for sure.
I would love to see him play in the cup match. I think that's in all seriousness, right? We have 3 games in 7 days, right? We're talking about squad rotation. I think that's a perfect chance, right? If he gets cleared by then and he's, fit and ready. These are the kind of players that you want to play in those moments where it's kind of low pressure, right? Low risk, high reward. So,
do we need another signing or two?
No.
If so, where?
No, I don't know that we do.
Whoa.
Honestly.
Yeah, really?
I could eat my words in a few weeks if a few guys get hurt, but given our position in the table right now, I feel pretty comfortable surviving, honestly. If we lose a couple more guys in the midfield, okay, fine. Yes, we need probably at least one more, I'd say, to be 100% comfortable. But I'd say I'm 95% comfortable as is right now.
I would probably say one more, Ryan.
What'd you go
just
with?
Midfielder. I think because I'm just, especially with how quickly we lost 2 kind of key players within a match, right? That can happen in an instant. And I don't want to take that for granted. People like Ghana and Doucoure, how, critical they've been for us. And so I think just having depth, not only from a roster utilization standpoint, but I also don't want those guys to have to play 90 minutes every single game. I want the ideal situation we've been clamoring for with Beto and DCL, where they don't have to play, start, every 90, and we want good, healthy competition as well as good, healthy rotation, right? So if we can get somebody on a loan, right? I don't think we need a significant buy at this point, right? I think they can kind of operate within the confines of PSR, and if there's an option out there, great. But yeah, I think I'm kind of with James. I feel pretty good especially two, if we stay healthy. The squad doesn't really need much, but one body I think would help just from a rotation standpoint.
And some guys are going to come back too. I mean, I don't know if Dwight McNeil's ever going to come back this year, but there may be a chance of that. Who knows? I will say this: it would be nice if we were going to bring someone in that's more experienced, that maybe in the midfield, Sean. Maybe you're right. That can get on the ball, maybe even play deeper. In this case, be nice to have someone that's a Spanish speaker. Honestly, I mean, I'm not saying that Alcaraz doesn't have, I just don't know who on this side that he can kind of lead him a little bit, mentor him a little bit. I know David Moyes managed at Real Sociedad. I'm sure he's perfectly fluent in Spanish, but you know what I mean? It's hard enough to come into this type of situation, but at least thankfully he's already has PL experience. I joke that this was the sneaky way for us to get a young player in because technically he has PL experience.
he checks that box for sure, and we talked about it already. But yeah, the low risk deal structure as well as the profile of the player being relatively low risk. Just I think it's kind of a no brainer. But for me, it's either midfield or like right wing. I think for depth, like if Jesper goes down, do you have to put Jack back out there? Like I don't really have a ton of confidence in that. So we'll see how that develops. It's just a few days left. It's Saturday evening now. Monday the window closes. Time's ticking.
And something could change too. I mean, there's been some scuttlebutt about maybe Jack going back to Leeds because they're going to sell him someplace. I mean, there could be a lot of things that happen still between now and then. But man, it's got to feel pretty good on the recruitment side now. You got a little room to breathe. You don't feel so pressured to go in there and bring in guys and use resources in the short term that you'd rather use for the long term, because I think we know eventually we want to build back up. You got to get an ROI off to every one of these guys. You got to be very smart about how you use your money, and I think Alcaraz is a good use of that in terms of profile. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited to see what he can do.
I think that's a good place to wrap things up for this episode. Man, this was a fun one. I think this one went really well. Hopefully you all enjoyed listening to it. We appreciate all your support, as we said at the top. One last reminder, follow us on socials, links in the description, join our Discord, leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. We really appreciate that. More to come from us very soon, but until then, until next time, enjoy this win and up the Toffees.